Good night and welcome to Travels with Sheila. We're going to begin our tour of Ephesus today, one of the all-time greatest UNESCO World Heritage Sites in the world, at the upper gate and end up at the lower gate. But I just want to point out to you, behind me are lavatories. There is no place to buy water inside, and there is no place to go. So make sure you buy your water. It gets very hot, and do your business before you head in. Come with us today. Our guide prefers not to be videoed, so you're going to hear me paraphrasing the history of Ephesus as we go along, and I hope you enjoy the visit. I know you will. We're going to buy the combined ticket since we are going to see all this. It takes care of the terraced houses, which was excavated recently, so we didn't see it 40 years ago when we were here. The ancient city of Ephesus is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It was once an ancient Greek city and later became a Roman city. They just scan it. During the beginning of the Roman period, around 100 BC, Ephesus had a population of 250,000 people, making it one of the largest cities in the Mediterranean world. It's also difficult to believe that the city became so popular and was so important in the commercial world because it was on a river that led to the Mediterranean /or Aegean Sea. The river became silted up, no more boats, no more transportation, ergo, eventually, ruins, nobody here. Almost every building in Ephesus is from the golden years, the 2nd century Roman, but this is one of the most important part of their bathing, the hot rooms, the cold rooms, women and children in the morning, men in the afternoon, toilets. The Romans used 3 kinds of pipes. These are clay pipes from 1,500 years ago. So they used clay pipes, stone pipes, and lead pipes used for heating, running water, and sewer system. There's nothing new. The Romans did it all. That is the largest cistern. But isn't it amazing? It is to me how they would use it. Sure, and since we're going downhill, go into the pipes, and everybody had running water. This is the upper or state agora. Later on, we're going to come across the other part, the important agora or forum. Something peculiar happening tonight, where the slaves were sold. Did you know that Turkey has 48% of the world's marble? The Stoa was built in 11 AD. And when it was raining out there, the people would take shelter here in the roofed stoa, the Basilica Stoa. These are all part of the roof. Can you imagine? I don't even know how much weight is involved in a marble roof. That's an ancient backgammon set. So when it's raining outside, 2 people could sit there and play backgammon. The council chamber for Parliament. This part of the Senate is original. The upper parts are not. The Odeon Theater was an enclosed theater used for meetings of the Senate and concert hall performances. At one time, before the excavations here, the entire theater was completely underground. And this is exactly how they were found, in situ. To be a senator, you had to be part of the upper rich class. If you were poor, forget about it. It could hold 1,700 people because spectators were invited. The great statue of Artemis, the most valuable relic, actually, that they found here in Ephesus, was found right here. It's now in the museum, which Steve and I are going to go see later on. That is how Artemis or Diana was found intact. In front of the pine was a temple of Isis. Remember, this was an important city. People came from all over. And these pillars of granite, not marble, were part of the temple. Perhaps one day the temple will be restored there, and you'll see a little temple of Isis right in the middle of Ephesus. The eternal flame of the city was kept here. guarded by the Vestal virgins, because if the flame was ever extinguished, then they felt the city would die. You can see the street leading down through the city. Way out there is the library that we will get to. It's like the icon of Ephesus. That was all sea, all the green area 2,000 years ago. And most of this area, when Steve and I were here 40 years ago, was still underground. It was not excavated yet. In the green section are the houses of the rich that we're going to visit. That was not excavated at the time. It takes a lot of money, time, and people to excavate anything. That part behind the tree is the latest excavation that they're working on just from last year. So you can imagine 80% of the city is still buried under all this. This is the pedestrian route. When we get down lower, we'll see where the ruts of the chariots. Chariot, cheerio.
These are all concrete?
Still the original marble blocks. The people would walk down the sacred ramp like the priest did every single day under this protected area. And these would be little shops along the way. Buy a little yogurt, do a little schmoozing. If you saw Catechus, you knew it was a hospital. They've always used it. And this was the hospital. So that is Hermes, or Pan, a god, who was also a god of business. The entire public square was in Domitian's name, and behind it, way up there, those, what looks like a cave, were actually the supports. Crazy, mad Domitian, who was eventually murdered by his wife.
Yes.
Good job! You can see the ground level behind Steve. They only began excavations in 1872. So all this was underground. All of it. No wonder only 20% has been excavated. Hercules. Malaria was the biggest disease of the city, and this was a statue of Dr. Alexander, the rich and famous. He used to line the pedestals along the Great Street, and there were 4 streets like this. God knows how many more are underneath. Hercules Gate bordered Curites Street to the east. It blocked the street for wagon traffic, and Nike's arch was above it. Nike, once a famous goddess, but now the goddess of running shoes. The street of Curites is the main thoroughfare through Ephesus. The Temple of Hadrian was built by the rich people of Ephesus to honor Hadrian, who visited twice.
There is another woman with open arms and curly hair about the main entrance. Looks like Medusa, the lady with the snake hairs, but she's not Medusa. Another demi-goddess, her name Flora, the goddess of spring. Built in 1985, but almost 90% of pieces used for the restoration were original.
So main gate to the Agora.
Beautiful buildings.
And of course, right in front of us is the icon of Ephesus, the library. Only the front facade, and believe it or not, it was open to the public just a year before we visited, in 1979. The centerpiece of Ephesus is the Library of Celsus, built in 117 AD. It housed more than 12,000 scrolls, which made it the 3rd richest library in ancient times.
What we know from the written history of library.
That it went way up behind it, three levels. Time for a theater performance. Very famous people have appeared here, like Elton John and Sting, because of the acoustics. That's for the acoustics. The Great Theater was constructed in the Hellenistic period in the 3rd century BC and contains 25,000 seats, half of that of the Roman Colosseum. The theater was used for concerts, plays, political discussions. How about friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears? Gladiator and animal fights.
Like a terrace was constructed maybe...
This is where slaves were bought and sold. Where did the slaves primarily come from? Just wherever country they captured?
Majority Negroes from African.
Even then, it was slavery. The chariot ruts in the street. It's easier to see from this angle.
I want to make sure she doesn't fall and break side.
Harbor Street is the longest, widest street that's been excavated so far. This was the most important connection between the harbor and the Great Theater. And once again, it was publicly lit at night. The Theater Gymnasium,
And having
which
two
is
sections, the section on the left, section on the
classrooms.
right, called Palestra, was a huge open-air area for the physical education training.
Milestones, not in Ephesus, but discovered around the city, so it told you how far it was to go where. There's one milestone in the Ephesus Museum. In order to increase the visibility of the information on milestones, the letters were painted in red. When there was a new emperor on the throne, milestones were turned upside down and reused by the city administrators in order to avoid additional expenses. Of course, when you exit, there's a little mini shopping mall. I am pooped. 3 hours.